Hello, students. So here I'm going to give an outline for Did It Have to Happen? I will not give the summary though, because you requested to use this essay, use this reading as for your essay on Tuesday next week. So you will have to come up with a summary yourself, but I will hopefully help you lead you through this so that you have a strong outline if this is the one you want to do. If you like the other questions, please don't doubt yourself. Be confident, and I know you can have an excellent summary and outline for those ones as well. And we will keep working on this the whole semester. So getting an outline from this first. So you need to understand the reading. This is the beginning, and we labeled it the introduction. And in the introduction now, with the summary response, we're going to have a summary in the introduction. So they kind of have a hook, maybe, and then some general background here, and then a summary, which goes on to the next page. So I'll make it a little bigger if I can. This is as big as it'll get, so please look in your book for the parts that I'm highlighting. So at the end of, the summary ends at the end of paragraph 1, and then in paragraph 2 we have nicely at the end of the introduction we have the thesis statement here. And so for the summary, we want to understand the introduction. For the outline, we want to understand the introduction. So we come here and we have our table, intro, body, and conclusion. And in the introduction, what's the main point of this introduction? So you could say the author summarizes, but that's not the most important part. The most important part is what the author will do for the rest of the essay. So the author thinks there's no perfect way to raise immigrant children, but Rodriguez's parents could have done a better job. So the author states that while there is no to raise okay, and I'll make this bigger so you can, it's easier for you to see. And we don't need, I'm not asking for any supporting details here. So this is kind of the idea. You don't need this here because you know it's the author stating it. You would have to say the author here. So it's okay to say this because it's language that you'll use in your summary when you get there. So we have the introduction, the main idea from the thesis. If you want to have more for yourself, that's okay, but this is what I'm looking for. In the body, we'll have to have the main points from the body. So we'll go to the first body section, paragraph 3. So for one thing, both his parents spoke English, although not perfectly, but they used only Spanish at home. So this is a key word here, Spanish at home, or only Spanish at home. And then he has some support, and Rodriguez felt at home only in his Spanish-speaking environment. That feeling decreased as he acquired English skills and achieved academic success. So what's the main point here? The author feels that Rodriguez's parents could have spoken more English at home. And you could say extra to help Rodriguez feel more comfortable in English schools, to help Richard. So here, the author feels that Rodriguez, of course, is the last name, parents could have spoken more English at home to help Richard feel more comfortable in English schools. And do we have a supporting detail for that? Yes, we do. What's the supporting detail in here? Well, directly the second sentence, they did not start speaking English to Richard until he entered school. Or here, in school, I was terrified by the language of gringos. That's pretty strong, so I'm going to do that. Because his parents did not, Richard felt terrified in schools. Let's make sure. Terrified by the language of gringos. That's, yes, terrified by the language of gringos. Okay, now, second main point. Second, we look for this transition, so we know it's going to be the second main point. Since his parents spoke some English, they could have made more of an effort to expose Richard to their native and adopted cultures. So this, native and adopted cultures, from the time Richard was born. So right at the very beginning, they don't want to wait at all. Or this author doesn't want him to wait at all. So I think that's very clearly says the main point of this section. So the author feels Richard's parents should have shown instead of exposed him English culture and language, as well as Spanish language, right from birth. So let me put that all on one so you can see that. So the author feels Richard's parents should have shown him English culture and language as well as Spanish language, or as well as Spanish language and culture right from birth. So that's the second point. And do we have a supporting detail? We sure do. So they could have read him books. They could have read him books. So they did not read him books. We can imply that. They did not read him English books. And then there's also the point at the end of the paragraph that's pretty important. Richard felt ashamed of his parents, then guilty of the shame. So I think we should include that there. This made Richard feel ashamed of his parents. I'm just going to include it like that. Maybe as a detail. Let's use that as a supporting detail. That's another detail why the author feels that they should have showed him English culture as well as Spanish language and culture. Next body paragraph, number 5. Although his father was bitter about his hard life and personal disappointments, he did not have to show that bitterness to his children. So again, the author is saying that he shouldn't this parent shouldn't have done something, they should have done something else. So let's copy that down. The author feels that Richard's father should not have shown Richard how angry he was because of his hard life. And we can put the one that we talked about in class, that this separated Richard from his father. Made Richard and his brothers feel distant from him emotionally. So the result of that we can write down as a detail. Richard and his brothers felt estranged from their father because of this. There. So these are the main ideas, the three main body sections, and we have the three main ideas of each one. And I'm not taking too much language from the article, although I am taking key nouns. I'm definitely borrowing the core noun, not core nouns, the nouns that are being used in the reading. And let's look at the conclusion. For the conclusion, I'm looking for the move on section. So here. The move on, while it starts broad, normally you would expect an essay to start broad, to end broadly, sorry, the move on to be a little bit more broad. But this here is very broad. It goes back to like the very beginning of the essay. Every immigrant or refugee child probably feels caught between the inside world of the families and the dominant outside culture. Then it goes more narrow. Richard's parents were loving, but they didn't do enough, basically, is what the author said. And then so he ends with this. Could Richard's parents have done better? Yes, they could have. So he blames the parents, which a lot of you disagreed with, which was nice to hear the strong opinions. The challenge would have been great, but if they had met it, Richard and his brothers might not have felt so estranged from their parents. So now you need to summarize this conclusion, which is really the last point. So what can I say? The author feels that Richard's parents should have tried more steps to include him in American culture. If they did that, he would have a better relationship with his parents. So this is my version of the ending. So really the author's blaming his parents. You could even say that. But the author feels that Richard's parents should have tried more steps to include him in American culture. If they did that, he would have had, sorry, grammar is important, a better relationship with his parents. So now you have all the main points of your story in an outline. So I'm going to shrink this again just so we can see it on one page. So we have all these pieces. I know you can't see it very well on the video, but then this piece here, this top piece, will go in your first sentence of your summary. The next 3 sentences of your summary will include this information. You can have compound sentences, you can join them because the ideas are very similar. And then the very last sentence of your summary will start with something like, in conclusion, and will include the information from the red sentence. So you can't use my sentences exactly, of course, you'll do your own, but this information should be in your summary using the correct format. I hopefully this helps you understand how I expect the outlines to be done. And if you have more requests for other videos, please ask me in class or send me an email and I'll do my best to make a video. All right, I'll see you in class.